Hello, everyone. My name is Alejandro from the experts team in XTM, and welcome to today's webinar on advanced content processing with filter templates. I'll introduce the topics and agenda now, but first, a couple of ground rules. All attendees are muted, but you are able to enter questions in the question box in the GoToWebinar interface. So feel free to enter them there. We'll go through the webinar and we'll have time for Q&A after the presentation is done. I'm aiming to wrap this presentation up in around 25, 30 minutes, so we can leave time for Q&A. All right, so the topic of this webinar is about content processing and how filter templates can help you achieve this in XDM. Previously, some of these options were available globally, mainly in the Analysis Manager section in Configuration Settings in XDM interface. However, we saw more and more the need for flexibility, as not all of the content needs to be processed in the same way, in the same scenarios. So this feature was called Analysis Template a couple versions ago, but it's been now renamed to filter templates. So in all documentation, you might find the legacy name. Right now, it's been renamed to filter template. The product team is actively working on improving the user experience of this feature, and it's a big priority for the team. So it's a very active part of the product right now. Okay, so I'm going to now move to today's topics. So for today's topics, I wanted to explain a little what is the scope of the filter templates, what different aspects of the processing of the source content can be controlled from there, and some of the limitations in the logic proposed in this feature. As well, I wanted to show how these configurations are used in project creation and how it fits in the setting hierarchies within XCM. As mentioned previously, the filter templates are a feature that's currently being improved. And while we'll be able to check how the file filter builder works in action, the user-facing elements surfaced to the UI are not the full range of settings possible with this feature. The product team initially focused more on the effective processing of the content. So all the different requirements for flexibility are addressed. That's why you can rest assured your requirements will be met with backend configurations in case they are not doable in a self-serve manner in the user face and in the user interface for the time being. So the elements in the user interface are being exposed more and more as the feature is developed. But if a configuration is not currently possible in the user interface, this does not mean that it is not possible. It is just done through backend, and we'll see later how to request this type of actions to support, so they can enable it in the backend. All right. So after that, I'll proceed to go to XTM for demonstration and showcase a few options for the file filter building, and we'll be able to see a couple of filter templates I have prepared in action in some of the sample projects that I've prepared. All right. So in terms of the scope and well, I title it scope and limitations, but it's mainly about the scope. Limitations is a little part, but basically there are four sections that we can talk about in content processing for filter templates, content parsing, segmentation of the parsed content, mapping of metadata present in the content blocks or in the segments, and then visual preview. So for content parsing, the idea is that with a filter template, you can create specific rules, so different from the ones that come with XCM out of the box for parsing content. These rules specify in what part of the file structure the translatable content is located. The filter template can include filters for multiple file formats at the same time, but it cannot differentiate between target languages. So when we are setting rules for XML, we cannot set rules for XML for a group of languages, but not for other group of languages. So that is one of the limitations I would say in that term. The file format would apply for the content parsing is defined per file format for all target languages at the same time. Content parsing uses ITS rules as well as another file in the backend, which is called the extract configuration file. Custom variables can be defined with regular expressions to further convert tokens in the content into inline elements, the ones that you typically see between curly brackets in the Workbench. With content parsing, you can also manage the flow of text containing nested elements, manage the behavior of control and reserved characters in the different file formats, also white spaces. You can also control how HTML is, how embedded HTML is parsed inside the files. And you can also use this content parsing to mask, to use file extension masks, and also to force file formats to be read as other file formats. So maybe you are producing a file format or a JSON file, but in the extension you have a TXT, because that's the way that you're currently producing your output. So you can, through a filter template, you can define that TXT files will be read as if they were JSON files, for instance. Regarding segmentation, you can create specific rules, again, different from the ones out of the box, for segmenting the translatable text. So after the content is parsed, the translatable content is extracted from the files and it's broken down into segments. The filter template can contain the segmentation rules for one source language at a time, and it will apply the rules to all file formats in that language. So conversely to what happened with content parsing, the segmentation rules are defined per language, in this case per source language, because what gets segmented is the source. And it applies to all file formats that are processed in the project we're using this template. So that's that can be also read as a limitation there. In terms of segmentation, segmentation rules use the standard SRX rules to define specific segmentations or stop words. You can, if you have a SRX rule that you want to import, or you maybe are coming from a different TMS and will start using XTM. If your previous TMS allows you to download the SRX rules used there, you can seamlessly import them in a filter template and start using them in XTM. Of course, you can toggle paragraph or segment level or paragraph or sentence level segmentation. And within the SRX rules, you can also set segmentation exceptions around certain abbreviations and inline tags. Then regarding segment metadata mapping, you can you can set a filter template to use elements present in the file other than the source text to help identify the type of source content and give the translator more context for style, special instructions, and other information related to the source content that they are translating, which is not the source content. So additional information that they can use. This could include segment ID, so displaying the segment ID maybe in a software strings for mobile applications or web applications. Sibling elements in a content block can help identify them in another system. So sometimes when doing debugging or doing ICR in a staging server, your strings in the source code will have an ID that can be traced back to XDM if set properly. So you can identify in each of the elements that are shown on screen in context the correspondence with the XDM segment. You can also port over to the Workbench for the convenience of the translator metadata such as comments or dev notes that are added in the authoring system that you're producing your content in. Also information about target segment length limitations in case you are working with a user interface that you need length restrictions. If that information is available in the source file in an organized way, a filter template can leverage that and make use of that option in the Workbench, which would trigger QA error when a translator exceeds this this length. Additionally, other pieces of metadata in the segments can be displayed as additional columns other than source and target, and we'll see that in the demonstration. And then last, about visual preview. So there's a visual preview for some file formats available in XDM. Sometimes the style that is applied by XDM would be a little more generic than the style that it gets applied in your in the way that you're rendering your content. So you can use XSLT style sheets in your filter template to improve the visual preview for a set of file formats. So that is also doable with the filter template. So basically, this is the range of features that are available. For this webinar, I'll be focusing on content parsing and segment metadata mapping. The other two are segmentation is rather simple, and for visual preview we'll need a little bit more time. So yeah, the focus today will be on these two. I wanted to talk a little bit also about the hierarchy in the settings in XDM and how filter templates fit in. So as you might already know, XDM settings work within a hierarchy. One filter template is applied to a whole project. But if you don't choose a filter template during project creation, the project will pick the filter template that is defined as the default for the customer. And if there isn't any default defined for the customer, it will pick the default defined globally. So basically, in the same way that many of the other settings work in XTM, you can have different settings project by project, or by customer, or globally. So it falls back to the higher level of hierarchy. So only one filter template can be applied to a project at a time. The filter template, however, can contain information on how to parse multiple file formats at the same time. So the only scenario where this poses a limitation is when you have a project with two sets of files of the same extension that need to be treated differently. So for instance, if in the same project you want to use multilingual XML files and Android strings, which are monolingual and have a different structure, in that case, it might be necessary to create separate projects for both file sets. But just for you to remember, multiple formats can be defined within one filter template, along with the other features that we discussed previously. All right, so now I want to go to the XTM user interface. Oh, sorry about that. So as an administrator, I'm logging as an administrator, and basically this configuration of filter templates is reserved for administrations. It's under configuration. You will find filter templates in to the right of settings. So from the filter templates section, you can add a filter template using this this button here, and it will prompt you to use the file filter builder. File filter builder is the built-in filter builder for XTM. As I mentioned previously, not all file formats are available here, and not in the full range of processing capabilities is not is not fully surfaced here. So you can see I can go to filter templates. I can create a custom or default. In this case, I will pick custom. This means that this will not be default for any customer or project or globally. I can, however, limit this filter template to one customer. So if I'm creating a project under demo customer A, and I define this filter template for knowledge base, I will not be able to pick it. In this case, I want to go to filter template that I've already created here. So you can see that a template can contain more than one filter. So in this case, there is a Microsoft Office Word filter, but it can contain for multiple formats. So I'll go to edit this filter, and this is the file filter builder in XTM. The file type is Microsoft Word. Currently, there are other Microsoft Office formats available. The idea is to open the file filter builder to all file formats that are configurable, but that will be done progressively by the product team. In this case, the settings that I'm selecting for parsing this Word file are I want the text in hyperlinks to be translatable, and also I want to exclude any any text in the color magenta for translation. So I'll show you how this looks like in the source files. So initially, I have this this Word file. This is our manual for the contentful connector. I want to send this to translation. However, I want to skip a whole section, which is dedicated to administrators here. So I created a copy of this Word file, and I painted this whole section in magenta, which I can remove later on. So when I go to the project that I created using this filter template, let me go to it here. And I will open the, you can see the filter template was used in this section. So I'll go to the workflow here, open it in Workbench in the visual mode. So the preview was generated. The Word file is, you can see it here. When I scroll down to configuration for administrators only, you can see that the last segment that I have here is Safari. All of this is skipped, and the next segment that I have is XDM Connect Contentful Panel. So all this section that I painted in magenta is skipped from translation. So that's how we select the content that goes to translation. This is one of the ways for Microsoft Word. Now, for the other samples that I have prepared, File Filter Builder is not yet ready to configure JSON files or JSON or XML files in the user interface. This is, however, something that we can request to support. So in this case, I created a ticket, and this is not a privilege that I have. Internally, any client can create a ticket asking for a filter template, specifying, for instance, that I want to include only the following elements for XML and for JSON, and then I requested another filter template. In this case, not only I want to specify what needs to be parsed, but also I'm requesting this filter template to have metadata mapping. So I want to add a column to display one of the attributes of each of the XML strings. I want to set segment character limitation in case it's available, and also map over dev comments in the string and in the Android strings to the XTM comments. And also for JSON, I want to pick segment ID, and I paired the segment IDs with images during project creation, which is also something that can be done. So I want to show you in this project element selection, I'll open the XML file in the left, and I'll display the, so in the Workbench at the left, and then the file in the right. So you can see in this filter template, I requested that when the attribute translate equals no, the whole book element is not included. So you can see here, my attribute matches that. And when I go to the Workbench, I don't see this whole entry. I only start seeing from here, and the elements that I set in this filter template to be parsed are author, title, and description. So those are the three that we can see here. So this is a sample of the elements and how you can define what elements go to translation and which not, be it by the element name or the condition established at the properties of the element. Next, we have a JSON file, and in the JSON file, I only wanted to translate the members section. I did not want to send any of this to translation, so it starts with molecule man here, and in all the other members defined in this file. So that was a filter template to showcase how elements can be set in scope or out of scope for translation. For the next project, I want to show you how I mapped metadata coming from these files into the Workbench for the convenience of the translation process. So I'll go again to the JSON file here. I'll open it in the Workbench, not in read-only mode. You can see that there's additional information here. In the segment ID, the segment ID was mapped. So I tied this key in the JSON file to this other key within this object. So if I want to find molecule man, for instance, I can use the segment ID. I can actually apply filters based on this. So not only can I filter for text matching in source and target, but I can also filter by segment IDs. This could be convenient when a fix needs to be done, and you have several repetitions of a file, but you only need to modify one. And also through a special feature in project creation, I paired an image to this segment ID. So the translator is able to see, okay, it's seen a little reduced in size because of how I opened the Workbench. But basically, if I hover over, I can see the images that I added to each of the names, which could help providing context to the linguist. The images are added in a zip file. The zip file would contain the name of the segment ID. So you can see here how they map to each other. So if a file like this is produced and this filter segment is instructed to leverage this segment IDs, you can enrich the Workbench experience for a translator by adding this sort of images. And for the other file, for the XML string nodes, well, we can see I didn't add any image, so the column is available, but no images were added. But, and I'm going to pull this here again, I did map some other attributes. So you can see name here in the element. This attribute was mapped to a column. So this time it's not a segment ID. Segment ID could have been defined as this attribute for this segment, but I wanted to show how this can also be done in the shape of a column. So you can have different ways of placing this this metadata in the Workbench. For character limitation, I map this attribute char max. So we can see here that if I add a translation that exceeds this, I get a warning that I'm warning me that the number of characters in source and in target are these, and that the rule is the maximum number of characters in the target paragraph is 9. So it's mapped to this little value here. Same happened for these two other segments, and update now. Then the other requirement for this filter template was whenever there is a dev comment in the string, I want to add it as a comment in the Workbench. So it gets ported over, and you can see how in the string, the lead account text with this identifier, a comment was added, and this value is ported over here. This, for example, is the developer telling the translator that what does the variable represent in this case. In this other occasion, for example, it represents a country. So every time that your developer has some extra information to add to the content, it can be mapped as a comment in XML. It can also be mapped as a column, but in this case, I thought it was more convenient to have it here, since columns can be. For now, we don't have a way to wiggle the width, so that needs to be specified also in the filter template in case you need it to be more wider. So yeah, that is the that's a sample of how metadata can be ported over to the Workbench, and by having a comment like this, you can skip a query, and it will be beneficial as more information is available to the translator. One other thing I wanted to mention is you can see here how this, for example, this apostrophe here is encoded with the HTML entity. However, here it's rendered as a character, but in this filter template, for instance, not only this should be done, but also the escaping of the escaped character. I should have requested for the backlash to also not be shown in the Workbench. And I also ask that if a linguist inserts apostrophe here, that the target file will escape it with a backlash. This is something that can also be done, because if not, since it's a reserved character, not in XML, but yes, in Android, it will break. So this can also be set in the configuration. All this manipulation of encoded characters can be requested to adjust to your needs, depending on where are you importing the content or where your content is coming from. So it's something that's very useful. And last, for well, it's not a live it's a sample, but for example, I have Contentful here open, and I have sample content, you can see that in this content, there are different fields in contentful. One of the fields is limiting in contentful the length of the of the text. This is ported over to the xlib file, which the contentful connector sends from contentful into XTM. I have the xlib file opened here. And you can see there's a minimum width and a maximum width, and both. This is basically what allowed us to enable the porting of this piece of metadata with the contentful connector. So this can be sent over, and when the translator will be translating this text, they will have this restriction in character length there. So it's the way that we made that feature available for the contentful connector. Okay, so that was a little bit more than 25 minutes. I will open now the room for the webinar question box for questions, if you have any. Feel free to enter them, and we can go to some specific case. So Sandra is asking if there is a size limitation per image and total images when adding metadata info. That's an interesting question. I know that the preview, so there are two ways. Oh, apologies. There are two ways of rendering the image. When we hover over, let me go back to the file here. When I hover over the file, it will produce preview of 400 by 400 pixels. And if I click on the image, I get the full size. I believe there will be a size, well, not sure if a size limitation in terms of the image size. Yes, there might be size limitations in terms of file size, in terms of how much it weighs in megabytes, like any other part of the project. But I assume that if a file is too big to be displayed in here, the preview will reduce it to 400 by 400, like in this case. So there shouldn't be a problem in terms of how it displays. I can get back to you on whether if there is a limit on the amount of images and the size, but I expect the limit to be rather on the file size, on the zip file size, than on the size of the images or the count of the images. Okay. So I saw Marco had audio issues. Oh, but he has left the meeting. Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. If there aren't any other questions, I would wrap it up. And Wish everybody a good weekend and talk next time. Okay, bye.